Hey everybody, Don with Brazier Toneworks, and today I got a video on installing a kill switch on your guitar. Kill switch is basically a momentary on-off type of switch that you'd put in order to give you that machine gun or very staccato kind of effect like you would get with certain artists. Buckethead is the most common one that comes to mind. It's a very simple mod to do. It only requires one extra component, and that's an SPST switch, which stands for single pull, single throw. It is a momentary switch. You basically have two lugs on the back of the switch. You have an input and you have an output. And the switch, when activated, meaning that you'd push the button down, would interrupt that signal. Basically what's happening here is we need to stop the signal from going out to your amplifier to give you that effect. Now, just so everybody's aware, this switch comes in two different varieties. One is a toggle switch, the other is a push button. Normally what you would have on a kill switch is the push button. The toggle is more permanent, it's on, it's off. It takes you a lot longer to activate or deactivate it. The push button is typically what you would find in a kill switch. So when you're sourcing this out online, make sure you're looking for a momentary or an SPST switch that's a push button. Okay, looking at the screen, this is our conventional output for our guitar. On the left side, you'll see that we've got our volume pot. Input is coming into that pot from the switch. We have our output shown here in white going to the tip portion of our jack. And you see that we have the jack itself is grounded to our main grounding point, which in my world is always the volume pot. Now what we're doing is we're going to be putting this switch in, and a lot of people would think that the way, because this switch works, you would want to interrupt the white cable here or the hot wire coming to the tip portion of the jack. In reality, when you're trying to cancel a signal in a guitar, you want to actually ground the signal, not interrupt it. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to take the grounding wires and we're going to wire them to short out our circuit. So the first thing we do, as always, is we ground the switch to our main grounding point, again, the volume pot. You can see that here. The next step is actually to take a wire from the ground portion of our output jack to one of the lugs of the switch, and then take the other lug and go to the tip portion of our output jack. Now, some of you might wonder why I don't ground specifically to the volume pot rather than coming off of the ground off the output jack. And the reason has to do with grounding loops. I'd rather have just one focal point of ground, meaning my volume pot, rather than a potential secondary one on the switch itself. So basically what we end up with is a circuit that looks like this. Starting from the left, you can see the pickup wires coming into the volume pot. The white wire is the hot wire going to our output jack, which would ultimately go to our amp. When we engage the momentary switch, we're introducing ground and we're grounding the entire signal, shutting it off. Nothing gets to the amplifier. Now again, the reason that we're using ground to short this circuit out rather than interrupting the hot wire is that if you interrupt the signal, you have a potential of having additional hum or noise because your signal is still active, it's just not technically going anywhere. The method that you do want to use is to use ground to actually short out that signal and cancel it completely. Now for you guys who happen to have a Les Paul type guitar with that three-way toggle switch, what you're going to want to do is obviously you would not be coming off of the volume pot for your hot wire. That would be coming from the switch itself. It's the exact same process. In this case, the switch wire would be going to our output jack. We would still introduce ground as we would off of our main grounding point, and then we would short that circuit out when the switch was engaged. Well, there you go. That's the completed mod, and it's a very interesting one. If you go out and you listen to guys, again, Buckethead tends to be the most predominant player who does this. If you listen to him, he's got some really cool things that you can do with this. It's a simple thing to do. You just need one component. You will need to modify your guitar by either drilling a hole in it or into the pickguard itself, so be prepared for that. Again, I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or things you'd like to see, please email me at braziertoneworks@gmail.com. And remember, tone, it's not just a knob, it's sound advice.